I don't know if that music is copyrightable, but here we go, I guess. So, the first episode that we're talking about is not Christmas related. But,
That wasn't a Christmas song. That was fucking Ode to Joy, bitch.
No, but you hear that during Christmas time.
You hear it at any time people are joyful.
Anytime people are joyful?
Yeah, anytime. Hiya.
Ready, Eddie.
Yes.
So we are back.
We are back.
We have been cranking these out, my man.
We are like not a sweatshop. A well-oiled machine.
We are a well-oiled machine.
Yes.
We are cranking out content as fast as the Disney machine has been cranking out Marvel movies.
Yeah, where's our billions of dollars? We are too smart. Too smart to be this poor.
We are too smart to be this poor. We are too driven to be this poor.
Precisely.
And you know, I am a Marvel shill. I will happily say that for sure.
Yeah.
I do think they could benefit from slowing the fuck down just as much, and I think that is what's happening.
And they're about to, apparently.
I think that is what's happening. Yeah. So we're here to talk about primarily the Marvels.
Yes.
We will touch on Loki a little bit and the state of the greater Marvel universe.
I was gonna say, I think talking about Loki is so we can talk about the state of the greater MCU because, my dear Javi, do we have a string of consecutive 3 good Marvel projects?
I would say so.
Wait, sure. When did Secret Invasion come out?
Oh, that's a good point.
Maybe not. Roll that back.
Yeah, Secret Invasion was June.
When was Guardians?
May.
It was May?
It was May, dude. Okay. May 5th.
Alright, so we do not have a string of 3 good.
No, but here's the thing.
Here's
the thing. Yeah. A lot of people didn't see Secret Invasion.
So we have a string of 3 good.
Anyway, so we're talking about the Marvels, which is a sequel to Captain Marvel.
And a movie that had reviews that ran the entirety of the gamut.
Oh,
from the G to the T.
From the G to the T. Yeah. Alright, so I know that I tend to be very positive about the movies that I want to see.
Correct.
Usually I'm pretty good at gauging what I like and what I don't like. So going into a movie, I know for the most part whether I'm going to like it or not.
Exactly. Except that time you recommended we watch 8 Crazy Nights.
Oh wait. Oh, that was you. I knew going in that I was gonna hate that. Yeah. But like watching this, like, you know, coming out, like I was like, I feel like this should be fun, at the very least.
I enjoyed all the promotional material for this movie.
I did too.
Intergalactic.
And it had great trailers. It had great midriff.
Yeah.
I like the cast. I think Tiana Perez and Iman Balani are like good additions to the MCU.
Yes.
I don't love Brie Larson, but I also don't understand like the hatred there is for her.
Well, it's a little thing.
Yes.
Let's call
incels.
Yes.
Yes. But I think this movie, unfortunately, does not have the benefit of being sandwiched between 2 of the biggest movies of all fucking time.
Whereas original Captain
Marvel did. Yeah. So they were able to kind of prevail over like all this just toxic hatred.
You had at the release in Phase 3, you had like Black Panther, Avengers, Infinity War, Captain Marvel, Endgame. Yep. You also had Ant-Man 2 in there as well, right? But you had like these big character pieces and like big cornerstones of representation from like, think about it, Captain Marvel is the first female-led Marvel project.
Yeah.
And like that's not that long ago. That's just 1 plague ago.
Yeah.
Right.
2019.
Yeah.
And I think it's that was the thing, right? Like back when that came out, you had a whole bunch of people who were like, "Fuck this movie! I'm not going to see it."
Yeah.
They went to see it.
Yeah.
There's no way you were not going to get that 100% trophy on your MCU list, right?
Right.
Whereas with this one, I feel like there were people who were like, fuck this movie. This movie's awful. I'm not going to see it. And they didn't see it. And they still come out to you and say, this movie's trash. It's awful.
Correct.
It's not funny. And you're like, well, you never saw it.
Correct.
And this time you actually believe they never saw it.
But the objective take on this movie is that it was a jolly good time.
It's a good time.
A flawed, jolly good time.
Yeah.
But a jolly good time.
There's a couple of things that, thinking about it, I'm like, I guess that doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. But I also don't think it's like a plot breaking thing, nor is it like enough for me to be like, yeah, no, the MCU is dead.
No.
Where I feel like a lot of people.
Where you feel like a lot of people.
I feel like a lot of people with this movie came in saying, I haven't liked the movies that I've seen lately, or I haven't liked everything that's come out lately, so I'm going to kind of go in and like look for things that maybe I don't like.
Yes.
Because like a lot of the criticism that I have seen is that the story doesn't make sense, that the story is confusing, and I'm like, it's not the best story, but I wasn't confused. I don't understand how you can go into this and be so confused that you're like, there's no story.
I would not. I was definitely not confused. I would say like my biggest critique is I think that there's a lot of this that was maybe left on the cutting room floor, like like that. Ironically, I think this movie very much benefits from being so short, right? Like it's a very efficient movie, right?
Yeah.
And yet, I feel like somewhere in an alternate universe, there's a 2 hour, 20-minute version of this movie that I would absolutely really love.
And I don't know if like there was ever like a Feige cut of this, right? Or like a Nia DaCosta like final version of this with all that stuff missing. But like I feel like if they cut stuff out, I really don't know how much of it was really that unsalvageable. Because Marvel has been notorious. Like I just finished reading the MCU or listening to the MCU book, and they do talk about how once Bob Chapek came in and started cranking out, like forcing Marvel to crank out all this content because they had to have stuff for the big screen,
content,
and then you had to have all that bullshit for Disney, for Disney Plus, and they could no longer just say, all right, whatever we need to fix, we'll fix it in reshoots.
Right.
They have been spread so thin. Your VFX artist has been spread so thin. Kevin Feige has been spread so thin. You just don't have that luxury anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they just didn't have whatever maybe was wrong initially salvageable, and they just said, fuck it, we'll cut it and we'll make sense of what we have. But even then, I still think, like I said, there is a through line here.
There's a through line.
There's everything that needs to make sense, I think, makes sense.
There are some.
Minus one thing.
Yeah. To me, there are some beautifully entertaining pieces. I'm going to throw shade at Jeremy Johns here. I do not get any version of the argument that says that this movie feels like a color by numbers Marvel movie.
No.
I could see someone disliking this movie, right? I could see someone thinking that the villain isn't the greatest. I don't think the villain's the greatest. I also don't think the villain's like, totally forgettable.
A lot of people were saying the villain has like no plan. There's nothing going on here. And I'm like, did we like
watch the same movie?
Not watch the same thing?
Yeah, but like individual scenes that I think that this movie does that are unique, I think are like fresh and different enough from the other Marvel fare where like this movie does stand out. Like I am excited to watch this movie another time.
Yeah.
Right?
I will absolutely be going to see this again over Thanksgiving break.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times you like listen to people talk about a movie and you hear some people go like, oh, I haven't seen this done before. And you're like, oh, slow down.
Yeah.
Don't give me that bullshit, right? Yeah. It may be cool, but slow down. I will say, I feel like this movie, specifically one action sequence, is pretty close to something that I don't think I've seen happen before.
Yeah.
Like the first fight scene in this movie is very like inventive, I think. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And initially maybe things may not make a lot of sense, but then when they start explaining how things work in this like from the trailers, we see that like they switch when they use their powers.
Right.
It's not just switching when you use their powers. Like they specifically say, we only switch when we use our powers at the same time.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
There are people who are like, I don't understand how sometimes they switch and sometimes they don't, but they're using their powers and they're using and like they're not switching. And I'm like, motherfucker, you not listen?
Yeah.
Like, I think people are just kind of checked out.
Well, it's the interesting. I mean, a lot of like the anti-Marvel group now has become an industry in and of itself.
Yeah.
Where they have to like keep on cranking out like shitting on Marvel content.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same problem to a much smaller scale that Marvel is having, where you have to like keep like you have to churn this shit out.
Yeah, keep that
like,
hate train going.
That the critiques themselves don't have to be like. I mean, they never had to be like super substantial, but they definitely don't in this case. Like, you just have to have the ugly thumbnails.
Yeah.
And the dog whistling.
You gotta have the big MCU letters and then arrows pointing at something.
Yeah.
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 And I don't know. It does bum me out because I think, well, I don't think any of the MCU movies deserves to be like, this is the worst shit ever.
Uh-huh.
No. But there are absolutely some things that I'm like, that just was not great, right? Thor Love and Thunder, not great.
Not great.
Secret Invasion,
Not great.
not great.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Eternals, which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not great.
Yeah.
Right? But this one is actually pretty fucking good.
I really enjoy this one. I think this one has the potential to age really well. Also, like where we're at, the beautiful thing about this and Loki coming out together is like we're actually like revisiting shit in the post Infinity Saga, which makes the overarching story to me feel more intriguing because you're like, I'm seeing where plot beats are being carried forward towards a new destination.
Yeah,
and I like that.
And some people kind of don't like that a lot, and
they don't like a progressing story.
How does it? There's a problem that people point out where they feel like there is progression, but it hasn't been rewarded, and I do agree.
Yeah.
And I do think in this one, it does feel like we're getting somewhere a little faster, and with Loki.
Yes.
Right. So I do agree with you with that, but I feel like there are a lot of people who we saw this and they still didn't want to give the credit.
Yeah.
Because it's sometimes more lucrative to not. Right. So I would say just to end non-spoiler stuff, I think this is a lot of fun. There's a lot of things in this that I love. I fucking love the cats.
Yep.
The cats are cute. Iman Balani, I think, is great.
So much charisma.
I fucking love that girl.
Mm-hmm.
If we do not get more Kamala Khan, like substantially more, I think that's a fucking
wasted opportunity.
Because even the Marvel game that came out recently, the Avengers game that came out, they were smart enough to know if you center something on Kamala, like having her be your central focus as like a fangirl, that's a smart thing to do. Even though that game was not good, like having Kamala be the focus was a really good idea. And I think this movie and the show The Marvel or Miss Marvel kind of shows that we should really be leaning a little bit more on that character.
Yeah.
Any other spoiler free-ish before we move on to some of the things that happen in this thing?
No, I give it 3.5 stars.
Good.
Lots of fun.
Lots of fun. So this movie, I don't think needs to have been a direct sequel to Captain Marvel.
No. Because that story is carried on in Endgame.
Right. One of the things that I do agree, I can't remember who it was. Somebody did say that the biggest drawback for Captain Marvel, for Carol Danvers herself, is the whole through line that she lost her memory, which then makes her feel like her agency is not as
realized
as important.
Right.
I do agree with that to a certain degree, right? But then people are kind of going like, well, why why didn't we see the story of her going back to fight the Kree? Like that should have been shown. And I'm like, well, we get a scene showing us what we need to know about this.
Right.
If there's not enough content there to expand that, you don't need to make it.
There's also really telling a story in retrospect is just inherently not as interesting, right? I don't really need to go back and fill in that hole, especially given now this is becoming about the MCU, especially given the fact that Phase 4 and 5 are kind of notorious for standing a bit too still for a bit too long.
Yep.
Right? I don't need to go backward. We did that with Black Widow.
Yeah.
Right? Need to go forward. I really liked, correct me if I'm wrong, this takes place like right at the end of Miss Marvel. And like the transition is pretty like Rogue One to New Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty seamless. Because we do start, I think, with that scene, and then we flash back a second, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's fine. Like that's as much flashback as we need.
Yep.
I really like the setup for how the three characters kind of become intertwined. By a happenstance of all three interacting with something at like the same
time. Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. The way the character or the way that it's explained that their power switching works, I think makes perfect sense because it gives you that wiggle room to still let your characters use their powers,
right?
But then also them being able to coordinate so they can then fight as a team.
I'm sure it makes sense. I could care less if it made sense or not. I just love the execution of it. We kind of talked about this at the beginning, but that first fight, going back and forth from house to like bare asteroid planet to like spaceship, and then seeing all of the characters interact with all the elements, right?
I mean, even Goose gets involved, which is fun.
Was hilarious. It was fresh, right? It wasn't something that we've seen before.
Yeah.
In the MCU, right?
And it also makes it so that all the key players get like a chance to do something cool.
It sets them off on as equal footing as possible, right?
Yeah.
I think naturally, like this is more, even though Monica Rambeau has the ending. I think it's naturally a bit more Carol Danvers movie, and then what's Miss Marvel's name?
Who?
Miss Marvel's name? What's
Kamala?
her? Kamala. Yeah, it's more Kamala Khan's movie and like Carol Danvers' movie than it is Monica Rambeau's. But it does like, but this movie does a good job of, to me, fleshing them out as like an ensemble.
Yeah,
and like they're all kind of really supportive of each other.
It's nice having a group of people. Like, all right, so there is a plot point where they try to make it like Monica and Carol have this like tension.
Yeah.
But it's kind of there, but it's also kind of not there because they're still like pretty chill with each other. They're kind of mature about it. Like it's uncomfortable. You can tell that like Monica is like kind of keeping Carol at like arm's length.
Yeah.
But then like that eventually gets kind of explained.
Right.
And you kind of get like a bit of like that emotional release
to me,
for, Carol.
To me, this is more of a fuck the patriarchy movie than the first one, and even then the first one, let us not forget, involves Brie Larson just like whooshing like Jude Law, like with her girl boss power. But the I don't know, like we like to joke like women hate women, right? Like we like to joke like you and I have with each other. But like,
excuse me, it's an observation.
But it's not here, right? And it's
these are good. Like they want to help each other.
And when they have problems, they're mature enough to say like, all right, like yeah, this sucks, but hey, like let's go forward.
There's a really good scene in this movie where the Kree and the am I blanking? The Skrulls.
Yeah.
They're like working on a peace treaty, right?
Yeah.
And Dar-Ben, who's like the leader of the Kree, betrays them. She blows shit up. She steals like their atmosphere.
Yeah.
And Carol has to get very stern with Kamala. She's like, "We need to go. We need to save who we can.
Yeah.
Like that's just how it has to be."
And then Kamala's like, "Don't meet your heroes."
Kamala's like, "Yeah, Kamala."
Yeah.
Kamala has to have a very like very rough wake up call that like being a hero just sometimes means you can't save everyone, right? And that was a good scene for Kamala to realize what has to happen.
Yeah.
But like the next scene, Carol talks to Kamala and she's like, "I'm really sorry for the way I talked to you, but like we were kind of like in a situation, right?"
It's like having a good boss.
Yeah, like sometimes they need to be stern with you, but like they will take the second
They'll
to be
follow up.
like,
Yeah.
"Hey, here's what was going on," and she didn't need to go into details because I think Kamala kind of goes like, "Oh, no, it
Yeah,
makes
she's not
sense."
she's not an idiot, right? I think this movie has a lot of like small scenes of conversation that to me were very compelling. 2 points on that. One, I think that's what I kind of wanted more of, but it's also, one of the common critiques about the Marvel shows, especially, was like, oh, it just ends on like a big CGI like fuckfest,
Hmm.
right? And this, we've had our critique against that critique, but I will say, like, this movie, I wouldn't like categorize it as CGI fuckfest. Like, obviously, there's CGI because
They're in space.
they're in space, but like, there's enough character moments, and then there's enough like solving problems through dialogue that I think carries this movie past like a lot of that shallowness that was levied at other Marvel projects post Infinity War.
Yeah, I don't think the so like yeah, you point out like this movie does not end in like a big CGI fight,
Yeah.
right? They the the big fighting gets resolved almost like 3/4 of the way into the movie.
Yeah.
And then like the last bit is they fight Darben.
Yeah.
They beat her up.
Yeah.
She goes boom, and then they had to close a hole.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And it's not like a big, explosion, boom, bang, bang, boom, like everything that happens with in the big water world, right?
Right.
Like they kind of end the movie not the way that you would expect,
Hmm.
like all these things. And that's fine. I like that. I do think it's kind of funny that they decided to kind of how do I phrase this? They decided not to repeat the end of the first movie, which they could have done.
Yeah.
Once they were no longer like entangled, like they could have done Carol comes in and just destroys the ship and she threatens the Kree to go away.
Yeah.
And they don't do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's better for it.
Well, then there's and they. I mean, the Kree get their second chance, right?
Yeah.
Which, like, if you look at like if you look at feminist criticism of like politics, they criticize like I'm not saying what my opinion is or not. I'm just like spitting what people believe, right? They
Mhm.
feel like male politics is like very punitive, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like fuck you, I'm going to beat you with my big stick.
Mhm.
And this is not like what that is. Like they help build like.
Which it's really funny you
Yeah.
mentioned that because I'm sitting there watching this movie and I'm like, these fucking Kree have had it too good.
Yeah.
Someone should wipe them out. You point that out and I'm like, huh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because it's it's true.
Right.
Like they
It's Japan after World War II.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it shows you why you can't just solve everything
With Big
with
Stick.
Big Stick.
Right.
Because that's what Carol tried to do.
Yep.
Right? In the one flashback that explains why she's hated,
Hmm.
she goes back to the Kree homeworld and blows up the supercomputer.
Yeah.
My only plot hole that I'm kind of curious about, and I don't know if you've thought about this at all. So I understand the Kree being upset with her for blowing up what is essentially like their leader, deity, whatever the fuck,
Hmm.
right? And why that may cause things to go into like a socio-economic like
Problem.
collapse,
Yeah.
right? Why would that destruction impact their sun, which would then impact their environment and their water?
Oh,
That to me doesn't make sense.
I don't know. Space computer magic.
I don't know
Right.
if there could have been something along the lines of like this was already happening,
Yeah.
and then because she wrecked all this,
And maybe the computer like keeps it, like regulates it.
or suck, which
Yeah.
that still doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, I mean, given that with all the stuff we're seeing in AI in fiction now,
Sure.
I think it's reasonable to assume a fictional universe where like the AI is just so powerful that like it knows how to regulate the problematic elements of nature around it.
Maybe, or something along the
Yeah.
lines of like the machine figured out a way to keep it
Yeah.
stable, but now that it's gone, the people are so incompetent because they're on their own.
Right.
That to me makes sense. I kind of just wish maybe there was something that was lost in the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
That is the only like thing that I'm like, that is a little confusing. Again, do I think it's important?
So that's
Nah,
your one plot hole.
that's really the only thing that I think feels plot hole-ish.
So I don't have plot holes, but I find elements of the film that I like, that I want more of. So, for example, I wanted more. I know we talked about how we liked how Carol is able to like solve her conflict with Kamala through like the slap on the wrist, but then the conversation, right?
In some chat.
Yeah. I kind of wanted a bit more of their conflict between her and Monica Rambeau.
Yeah, I agree.
I wanted more Carol v. Self conflict. I wanted that fleshed out more. I love the cat scene in the Saber space station. But I was like, while I was watching, I'm like, this is really fun. And I'm like, I forget why I'm supposed to give a fuck about this Saber station. Like, there's some like random world building moments where this guy's like, I'm 300 years old. And I go to you, I'm like, is he an Asgardian? And you're like, I think so. Right? Like, I would have liked a bit more of them as characters connected to the overall movie. But that's like, those are I don't want to say that's it because I feel like, those are kind of fundamental pieces. Um, but once again, I still see that as connective tissue of like scenes that just work really, really well. We talked about the fight scene, right? I love the musical planet scene.
I fucking loved it. I thought it was funny that we got a callback to Brie Larson having a musical background.
I kind of wanted more singing too.
I did too.
It could have jumped the shark. Right? It could have jumped the shark. But,
Thing.
yeah.
All right, we have a cinematic universe where we're going into like multiverses where things can be weird.
Yeah.
And people come out of Doctor Strange going, well, that wasn't weird enough.
Right.
And we finally get something weird and silly, but still like, fun.
Yeah.
And people go, well, that was just too much.
Did people really not like the singing planet?
People fucking hated this.
People can go to hell.
And I don't know if this was like something that someone would have said. I can totally see this happening. People thinking that is all just set up for one joke, which is where he goes, wait, why is he singing? Oh, he's bilingual. If it is, I don't give a fuck.
Worth it.
It fucking made me laugh.
Well, it also kind of like is an explanation. So, Captain Marvel has the Superman problem where it's like too OP. Like, why not solve every problem, right? And I think this movie does a good job of showing you, like, there's other planets out here, like, with problems. Like, she has to be married to this fucking prince, right?
For political reasons.
She has obligations, right? So I like that we're getting a snapshot of, like, the other shit that Captain Marvel
has been up to for the last 9 years.
However long.
One thing that I do think is smart of them to do, and like I've said a couple times before already, I don't know if this was the reason for it. I think it was good to have her be entangled, like have her powers be entangled to everybody else, because Captain Marvel is an extremely overpowered character.
Yep.
There is zero reason why she would not on her own be able to just absolutely wipe the floor with Darben.
She blows up Thanos' ship.
She fucks up his ship.
Yep.
Single-handedly.
Yeah.
And I think when you have a character like that, and it's the same problem with Superman, you have to find a way to level the playing field.
Yep.
And I think as restrictive as you get, this is the best case scenario to do it. You are not giving it like you're not like handcuffing the person.
Yeah.
You're putting restraints on, you're pumping the brakes.
Yes.
You're not slapping a boot on the car. You're just telling someone like, hey, you need to
Right.
hit the gas, but also hit the brake a little bit. And I think that's very smart. And it doesn't feel like she's being restrained.
And that's the thing. Like people have that critique that she's like too OP. I'm like, okay, well, take it up with the source material, right? And that's like the thing is, comics as a medium and story, like and storytelling structure are strange.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of crazy shit that goes on in comics.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
People want that brought to the screen, and then they also like want their realism.
So what's the alternative? The alternative is you show up, you watch the movie, and she's weak, and you go, "Why Captain Marvel so weak?"
And that back to the Superman comparison, like when was the last time we had a good Superman live adaptation? 1970 something, right? And that was just a totally different landscape.
I will go on the record saying that I actually kind of like Zack Snyder's Man of Steel.
But people still levy the same critique as that. Like, oh, if he's so powerful, right? Like blah 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 blah. Right? Right.
But that movie at least leveled the playing field by saying
He has to fight other Supermans.
other Supermans.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's how they like contain it. But even then they're like, oh, why can't he still solve like how can he actually fight Batman? Like, but which is true. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
like,
that shit's bullshit.
But like it
But
is.
because you have that kryptonite spear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot that can go on. So yeah, those are my issues. Like I said, I'm sure in an alternate universe, there's a 2 hour, 20-minute version of this movie that I really, really like. But fun time. And Marvel's back, baby.
Yes. To your comment that there's a 2 hour and 20 minute movie of this.
Yeah.
If this movie's an hour 40 like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
If there is like an additional 30-minute scene of them just having cats chase people and eat them, I'm okay with it.
Javi's there for it.
I fucking love that scene.
Yeah.
All right. Dan Murrell made this fucking comment, I think.
He didn't like that scene?
Where he was like, it doesn't make sense. Like, these cats are eating the people.
Yeah.
Like, how are we supposed to know that works? And we're like, motherfucker, everybody fucking knows who paid attention in the first movie and in the beginning of this that when the cats eat something, it's not eating. There's a fucking pocket dimension.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
And also,
it's fucking funny.
And also, once again, this gets to like comics. Like, when you're dealing with comics, some shit's gonna be like, all right.
Some shit's weird, dude.
Some shit's fucking weird.
Some shit's fucking weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like this a lot. I think the last thing that we need to really kind of mention is that we at the end of the movie, Monica. Oh, two things actually. The first thing is we get our official Young Avengers like.
And before that, I like that. Kamala Khan loses a bit of her innocence. I like that she kind of walks away with this with some emotional like
growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said her friend got hurt.
Yeah, she lost someone. She learned that sometimes you want to help all the civvies.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't.
Yep.
I think that because if I remember correctly, in her show, the only person that she lost was the bad lady who was already bad.
Yeah.
And
who cares?
That's who the fuck cares. When here, she actually lost a member of her team.
Yep.
And there's a lot of fucking dead scrolls that they couldn't save.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like that. I like the callbacks to like Samuel L. Jackson meeting with Tony Stark. The very first Iron Man movie. Some people go, well, how does she know to make those jokes? Like, I'm like, motherfuckers, dude, it's a fucking it's the writers having fun.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Like it's fiction.
It's fucking fiction. I would have liked Haley Steinfeld to have made a comment at the end of that where she could be like, oh, I know someone else.
Yeah.
Which would then tease us for Yelena.
Yes.
Because she mentions, so for the official three that we get mentioned are Kamala, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Kate Bishop. And Cassie Lane.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think we all kind of know that Yelena has to be like the Black Widow of the crew.
And then you need America Chavez.
So I'm excited for that to develop. You already hear rumblings on the Twitter sphere about, oh, why is it that the Avengers is now going to be all females and and no dudes, or the dudes are there, they're gonna be gay. You know?
Just you wait.
God, dude.
Yeah. How about they wait?
God damn.
Yeah.
Anyway, our last thing is they do tease new reality with. Yep. I did not. I don't know Kelsey Grammer a lot, so I don't instinctively know his voice.
I didn't realize that was Kelsey. I mean, I don't know the original X-Men movies that well. I didn't realize it was Kelsey Grammer until people said he's bad as a beast.
Hey, it's Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah.
He has a different look. He has a look more akin to like the cartoon series from the 90s. I don't know if this might be them connecting it to that new X-Men show that's supposed to be coming out.
And then the Deadpool movie next year also has Wolverine in his yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which has to be. It might be connected to this, right? Because it's more comic accurate, more TV show accurate.
Can we just remark for a moment that like old, commentary about those original X-Men movies, where I was like, yeah, like these black suits are boring, but we can fucking have Wolverine walk around live action with his yellow suit.
Okay, shut the fuck up.
Here we are.
It's goofy, but if you're selling it,
we've had enough of this established on screen already.
Yeah. I think it's proof that like when you fully commit, when you wholeheartedly buy into what you're selling, the people will buy.
And also, we couldn't get to this point without like they had to go through the drab black suits first,
Probably,
and then like the gradual like Iron Man, and then the rest of MCU to get to this point.
I guess, but like I don't know.
Batman and Robin tripped so bad. The pedophile man could walk.
That's fair, I guess. All right. Let's move on to Loki.
Yeah.
So Loki just wrapped up season 2.
Yeah.
Lots
of great.
Lots of great. I don't think the beginning was as strong as the end.
No.
I remember watching the first couple episodes being like, "Oh, this is pretty good." Because I know a lot of people are coming out like the critic reviewers were getting like 4 episodes initially.
Correct.
And a lot of them were like, "Oh, it's okay. It's not great. We'll see how this goes."
Yeah.
People were watching me like, "Oh, it's not fantastic, but
it's a good time."
The actors are doing good acting stuff. The directing is pretty good. Cinematography looks great. The stakes seem to be there.
Yeah. It doesn't have its very like episodic adventure of the week feel as the first season did, and as like first half of WandaVision definitely did.
I feel like even though like I don't disagree, I do think Loki season 1 started with that episodic feel, but I feel like it lost it by episode 3.
There's a little bit. There's the Chicago World's Fair episode, right? But yeah, it quickly like gets to the plot, right? Mm-hmm. And ironically, like it feels more like Phase 3 Marvel, and like this movie, Captain Marvel or the Marvels, feels more like Phase 3 Marvel.
Phase 3.
Like we're headed towards something.
Yeah. I do feel a little bad for Sylvie's actress, Stephanie DiMartino, I think is her name.
That role is definitely that character.
I feel like and it's unfortunate, and also God bless her for wanting to go back and then being put in that fucking awful mullet wig, dude.
Yeah,
it's got the worst bangs. It's got here's the funny thing. That wig is so bad, but it's still not the worst bangs I've seen this week. Ooh. That is in our next episode. It's not a good wig.
Not a good wig.
It was weird to just have like a random placement, like product placement episode with McDonald's.
Yeah,
it's so weird. It does not factor into the plot at all.
No.
I think I was telling you when I was watching the last episode, I was like, I kind of hate the fact Jonathan Majors might be a huge piece of shit.
Correct. Because he is so good.
He is good. He plays like the different variations of Kang very differently, but very well.
He Who Remains feels different than Quantumania Kang feels different than Victor Timely.
Yeah. And it's hard to do when you're tasked to play essentially the same character in the same projects, right? Like, yes, these are all separate projects, lowercase, but overall, capital P project is the same thing, right? He's a really good actor, and it fucking sucks that we're in this.
How many people have you seen who just said, just fucking bring back Terrence Howard?
Oh no. Or that.
I've seen many people comment on that.
A lot of people say they could bring in John Boyega.
Okay. Yeah.
Which all right, Ike Perlmutter is famous for having been not responsible necessarily for like the recasting of Don Cheadle in the Brody role,
right?
But he was in charge around the time, and he was the guy who said, "Ain't nobody gonna notice. All black people look the same."
Damn.
It's in the book.
Damn.
And I don't want to say that people
because Terrence Howard and Don Cheadle most definitely do not
at all. I do feel like there is some resemblance between John Boyega and Jonathan Majors. You could tell me, hey, John Boyega is playing like a younger version of
Kang.
And I'd be like, oh, that checks out. It's believable in the scope of like cinema, right? Yes. It's like when you watch the new Godzilla show. Like, you know that Kurt Russell is not Wyatt Russell, but you buy into the fact that this is the same character just 50 years in the future, right? Yeah. So if they do decide to step away from Kang, I don't think I would be happy with that. I like the idea of this Kang threat.
If you were going to step away from Kang, I wish it would have happened before Loki season 2.
Yeah.
And I would have been upset with it regardless. Post Ant-Man, especially.
I just think if they veer away from it, then I feel like the criticism of what the fuck is Marvel doing
holds more water.
Meandering around. Right. Like, I feel like that would validate a lot of those criticisms, because then you kind of go, yeah, then what the fuck is the point of you wasting my time with this Kang thing?
You know how we talked about how, now you can have the yellow Wolverine suit, right?
Yeah.
I feel like Marvel has done so much well in their tenure so far, right? Like, maybe if you had to recast, fuck, why is his name escaping me? Not Ron, Thanos actor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe if you had to recast him like super early, right?
Yeah.
Like, that would have been poo poo.
Which I think they did.
Oh, after just like some, because he wasn't there. He wasn't the actor during Avengers 1 end scene, right?
Yeah.
But if you had to recast him in between, like, I don't know, fine, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
Then that would have been like a little lamer. But I don't know. Now, given the circumstances, I'm like, I'm invested in this threat. Every fucking project so far has been so multiverse-y that, like, I feel like it has to be Kang. Just recast.
Because at this point, we haven't had any other hint that there is any other threat out there because of the multiverse.
Right.
Right. The TVA does bring in, like, these timelines are out of hand, and them spreading will cause like it to collapse on itself.
Yeah.
But that's been solved.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So now that that's no longer a threat, what the fuck is the only other threat out there? It's fucking Kang. Yeah. And I don't know. It would feel, I don't want to say it's the exact same thing. It would feel as close to a course correction as Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
From Last Jedi.
Right, I agree.
And that is not a good not a good look. That's not where you want to be.
People have theorized Doctor Doom. I just say, like, save
Doom for later. Doom is Doom is someone that could come in during King Dynasty, which he should. That's how it works in the comics too. Mm. He comes in and he's a big part in like Secret Wars. Mm. But you can't just magic everything away in the middle and jump to Doom right away.
Right.
And we hopefully don't have 15 projects in the span of 2 years.
No, it's gonna be weird for us next year. We're only getting
one proper MCU movie,
yeah,
which is Deadpool.
right.
We are getting Madam Web.
Doesn't count.
Technically, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe Venom 3 is supposed to be scheduled for next year too.
All right.
And Craven the Hunter is scheduled for next year.
So we're getting
one MCU.
We're getting Mad Catz controllers.
They are tangentially related because, technically speaking,
the Mad Catz controller is tangentially related to
the Xbox controllers.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I don't want that to just go away. It's going to be weird next year not having all these things, but I also do think they need to. I did see Dan's video on like if he ran Marvel. Did you watch that?
When was this most recent one released?
Yesterday.
Oh no, I haven't seen it. Yeah.
It was. I don't agree with his take on the Marvels.
Right.
I don't agree. I absolutely disagree with his take on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
But he does bring up a lot of good points that it really does feel like they're just kind of throwing everything at the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And
Not
while
much
a
is
lot
sticking.
of it is sticking,
Yeah.
a lot of the times what's sticking is not sticking well.
Mm.
And he does say, like, there's a problem with the fact that we have introduced all these characters. And Lord knows when's the last. Like, where the fuck is Shang-Chi?
Yep.
Where the fuck is Yelena?
Where the
fuck is the Eternals? Yeah. Fucking Harry Styles.
Yeah.
Are we fucking really gonna believe that he's getting his own thing? What the fuck is the point of putting him?
What do I care that Thanos' brother is just like
shows up because we haven't had a reason. What the fuck is the point of having Hercules show up at the end of Thor?
Right.
Hasn't been paid off. There is nothing on the slate coming up that makes me believe that's going to be paid off.
Yeah.
So, like, what is the point of these end credit scenes teasing these characters where we don't even see where that could possibly be?
Which, if you'll notice, in these two movies or in these two properties that we're talking about in this episode, they've toned it back.
Yep.
On the end credit stuff. I mean, the X-Men reveal is big, but
But that's also not out of left field because we've already gotten X-Men tangential related things in Multiverse of Madness. And Kamala's a mutant.
Right? Loki and Loki shouldn't have had any post-credit stuff.
No.
That ending was perfect.
Yep.
Right? Guardians only really has
the only teaser at the end that they had was teasing the future group of the Guardians, but that just means this is what the new group is. It doesn't necessarily mean this is what's coming up in the future movie.
Yeah. So it's funny that these past 3 projects that you and I think are really good, like hone it back on like the teasing, right? I think that's enough of a pattern to say like, maybe there's something here to this strategy. There's so much stuff out there now that Marvel really doesn't need to tease anymore.
Yeah. They really need to focus on what they have.
Yeah.
And if they want to drop Thor.
Yep. Oh. Yeah.
Drop Thor. You don't need to bring back every character that you've had.
Yeah.
Just give them a conclusion that feels okay. It does not mean kill them all.
Right.
If we don't see Hawkeye again,
I
think it's fine because I think in his show he got
the arc is
complete, right? And now we have a new character in Kate Bishop.
Right.
I think that's fine. Thor, he's off with his kid now.
Yeah.
If they want to leave it at that, fine. I didn't love the movie. Do I wish he had gone off on a higher note? Absolutely.
And we can pretend that Natalie Portman in heaven just like doesn't exist. Right?
Fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Or if they want to bring her back, then bring her back properly, but then don't just feel like because you bring her back, you have to shoehorn Thor back in.
Which, if we remember, at its peak, Phase 3, Thor Ragnarok, retcons old Marvel T stuff.
Yeah.
Fake, right?
Yeah.
Like, if it's for the sake of the story,
Yep.
Do it. Especially with, like you said, characters like Thor, where we've seen enough of them anyway. Like, the only reason, like, in my opinion, that, a Thor 5 and, like, continuing Chris Hemsworth's stories in the works is just because he's, like, a god. And, like, how the fuck are you gonna, like, you could kill him off because, like, comic movie magic, but it's much harder to kill him off than it is to kill off Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, but
Captain.
I do think they gave themselves an outish because they are godlike,
Yeah.
but they are. I mean, Loki's
died.
died.
Yep. Multiple times.
Multiple. The way before we completely lose the thread here, I really really love the
Loki's gonna
ending
hold the threads.
of Loki. Right. Speaking of threads,
Yeah.
if this is the last we see of Loki, I will be sad. But it's such a perfect ending.
Yeah.
For Loki. I hope that with going on through like the multiverse saga, they don't feel the need to shoehorn him into like Secret Wars or King Dynasties, if that's even the name of the movie. God fucking knows.
Right at this point.
Um,
Today there was just the news reported that the one of those movies directors is stepping away.
He's stepping away to focus on fucking Shang-Chi too, which he fucking should.
Yep.
Because Shang-Chi was really good.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's crazy to me that Shang-Chi came out in 2021.
Yeah.
And we haven't heard a peep since.
Right.
And he's a main character. He had his own movie.
Yeah.
So that to me seems kind of bonkers.
Thano's going to bring it back to Loki. Thano's going to bring back the Old Testament. Here. So start our new catchphrase. You told me to leave the Old Testament alone. Psalm 104. He clothed himself with light as with a garment. I love how like the fucking time strands become like
his cloak.
Yeah,
that was so cool.
Yeah, I think it's something. There's like protagonists everywhere become Jesus figures, right? I love that Loki gets to do it.
Yeah.
Given all that character has been through.
It's such a perfect payoff. Yeah. Like he's always wanted to rule something, and it's always been through like thievery, through
skullduggery,
betrayal, and all this bullshit. But in this one, you really do feel like he earned it, and he's doing it for good.
Yep.
He's not doing it to be the ruler. He's doing it because doing this means every other timeline gets to exist.
And it's kind of on brand because like Loki also loves chaos and trouble, and like in a way, like he's letting
this is what it is.
Letting the beauty of chaos like actually exist, right?
The way visually. So we talked about Loki being surrounded by like all the threats, right, and becoming his like
his cape,
cloak. And then the visual of that turning into like the fucking
Erendel or whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah.
Like that was really fucking cool.
So cool.
And the nice thing about it too is like we know the TVA is coming back.
Yeah.
They've already said that was the case, right? They're playing a big part in Deadpool.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that if they still want to bring in these characters because fucking Owen Wilson.
It was great.
It's great.
Yeah. Keep it fun.
Yeah. I fucking love it. He's so good in that movie.
Yeah.
I like the fact that I didn't love everything everywhere all at once.
Right.
But his character in that movie was so good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that movie happened because it's giving him a chance.
Yeah.
To
spread
do
those wings.
all these things. Yep. And deservedly so because he's adorable in like a weird way.
Much fun. He's so much fun. I think what's interesting is, and I don't want I'm gonna sound like a big stan right now. I think it's very unfair to like look at the Marvels and then look at like Loki and just like talk about how in shambles the MCU is.
It doesn't make sense.
When like objectively, like you just saw one of the top endings of any MCU property ever.
Yeah.
Right. And then what I think is also a very good movie, right? You can disagree, but I think these are both very good projects at minimum. I like the place we're in. Honestly, I think the Jonathan Majors thing is really like the biggest
hurdle right now.
Yeah, but it's a hurdle that I think is easily fixable. Just like
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Let's say it is kind of bad, but maybe not as bad as it is.
Yeah.
You could time heals wounds and people forget.
Yeah.
It's awful sometimes.
Yeah.
If it's really super legally bad.
Yeah.
Fucking recast.
Yeah, recast. That for the record is my suggested easy fix.
Yeah, what I'm saying. If they go through trial,
right,
and they do find that legally not guilty,
yeah,
maybe people don't love it,
right,
but from a company standpoint, where money is money,
yeah,
you don't have to renegotiate contracts with people.
Yeah.
You could just keep going, right? Is it a great solution? No, but it's possible from a legal business standpoint, which is unfortunately what a lot of these companies do.
Well, it's interesting. I saw no movement to boycott Loki season 2
because it doesn't need to be boycotted.
It doesn't need to be, but the thing is, if cancel culture is so, if it is as out of control as Bill Maher would have you believe, right? There was nobody who was actively voicing that they were not going to watch Loki season 2 because it supported Jonathan Majors, regardless of when it was filmed, right? And I think my point in that is that I think we're at a point with him and this whole situation, where I think the story can continue with this character and it has many options that it can go down.
And here's the thing: if there's ever been a character that you could retcon some sort of weird multiversal power where he's like, I want to look like this right now.
Yeah. Hey.
Fucking work.
Yeah.
Give me some bullshit. Make Renslayer a king variant and then say, I'm going to do some beep bop boop multiverse magic to make all my variants look like me now.
Right.
Because she's also great.
Yep.
I really like, I don't know who the actress is, but I really like her. She's really good. She's, intimidating when she needs to.
Yeah.
She's very good looking, which always helps. And she's a really good actress.
Juju Mbatha-Raw. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, these are things that you could just do.
Yep.
You're not tied into this.
Yeah.
Fucking just put in some thoughts.
This is the same company that has anti-vax lady as Black Panther, and also was and maybe T'Challa, just in case.
Yeah.
Right. So you can carry on with this character,
and that's to wrap up. I guess I think that's the lesson that we really need to kind of take away. Right. Marvel has done things so well for so long. I think they did need a year of or a few of just rake steps and rake steps and rake steps. And thankfully, those rake steps were then also accompanied by a change in leadership.
Yeah.
Because now that OK Bob is back,
right,
and Bad Bob is out, they can be like, oh shit, maybe we need to rethink.
Yeah.
Good chat.
Good chatting.
Good chat. All right, so we will reconvene shortly.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening so much to our show. I hope you give this movie a shot. It's actually pretty good. I think. Don't listen to the. People always say you should listen to the haters. Sometimes they have a point. Not in this case.
No, it's a fine time.
It's a fine time. I had a blast. I would like this to be doing better. It's not. Ooh, before we go, big shout out to Mama and Papa Khan because they are fucking funny. And the brother. They are all adorable. I have no idea what the fuck they are doing at the Saber Station. They have no business being there.
He's neglecting his wife. Where's the brother's wife?
The brother's wife? Yeah.
Where is she?
There is mention that he's talking to her on
FaceTime.
FaceTime,
Yeah.
and Nick Fury kind of like shits on him.
Yeah.
Also, people complain that Nick Fury acts like nothing happened in Secret Invasion.
That's
If
fine.
we can all,
That's fine.
if they
We
want to
can all.
say
Yeah.
that never happened, we're scrapping that from the record. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Me too.
Yep.
Me too.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Make sure you please like and share, subscribe, send put it on Facebook, put us on blast,
Put it on. Put us on the Zuck.
put us on the Zuck.
Yes.
Yep. We will be back with a holiday
Special.
special.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. It's a modern classic.
A modern classic.
Modern classic. Very different from our last holiday special.
It is different. It is very different.
Very different. All right, everybody. Until next time, he has been Thana.
He has been Javier.
And this has been the Cine-Scoots Movie Show.
Bye.